Family dinners had always been my favorite tradition. No matter how busy our lives became, Sunday evenings were sacred. The smell of roasted chicken, fresh bread, and cinnamon always filled the house. It reminded me of when Daniel was little, when everything felt simpler. That evening, the table was set perfectly. Candles flickered softly, glasses sparkled in the light, and laughter floated through the air. Daniel had brought his wife, Anna, who was still a relatively new addition to our family. She was sweet, polite, always eager to help, almost too perfect. As the night went on, we talked about ordinary things: work, vacation plans, the garden. Daniel poured wine. Anna told a story about their trip to the coast. Everything felt comfortable, predictable. Then it happened. During a toast, Anna raised her glass to Daniel, her eyes glowing. She smiled, opened her mouth, and said, "To Alex," before freezing mid-word. The room fell silent for a fraction of a second. She laughed nervously, corrected herself, and everyone joined in, waving it off as a funny mistake. Daniel even forced a smile, but his jaw tightened. It was subtle, something only a mother would notice. I didn't laugh. I watched the way Anna's hand trembled slightly as she placed her glass down. I saw Daniel glance at her, not with amusement, but with something closer to suspicion. And for the rest of the dinner, her smile was a little tighter, her posture a little stiffer. It could have been nothing. A slip of the tongue, a mix-up, an honest mistake. But it didn't feel like nothing. It felt like the first hairline crack on glass, small, almost invisible, but destined to spread. After everyone left, the house grew quiet again. I sat alone at the table, staring at the half-empty wine glasses. The moment replayed in my head over and over, the name, Alex, echoing louder each time. I told myself not to overthink, but deep down I knew better. Mothers notice things other people don't. Something was off. In the days that followed that Sunday dinner, the name, Alex, lingered in my mind like a whisper I couldn't unhear. I tried to convince myself it was nothing, a meaningless slip. But the more I thought about it, the more I noticed the small things I had previously ignored. Anna had always presented herself as warm and open, eager to be part of the family. She would bring desserts, help set the table, and laugh at all of Daniel's stories. But after that night, I began to see something different beneath the surface, small, almost invisible cracks. She started receiving more phone calls than usual. I'd visit their house during the week, unannounced sometimes, the way mothers do. While Daniel worked late, Anna would often be in the kitchen with her phone pressed to her ear, speaking in a low voice. The moment she saw me, she'd hang up quickly, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Her schedule changed, too. She suddenly had appointments and visits to friends that she never mentioned before. Once, she came home late with her hair slightly tousled and her blouse buttoned wrong, a detail most people wouldn't notice. But I did. Daniel, on the other hand, seemed distant, distracted. He often stared at his coffee in the mornings as if trying to solve a puzzle no one else could see. He didn't talk about Anna the way newlyweds usually do. Something unspoken hung between them, heavy and sharp. At a small family gathering, I caught Anna stepping away to the hallway with her phone again. I followed quietly, stopping before she noticed. Her voice was soft, almost tender. And then I heard it. Alex. The way she said his name was different. Familiar. Intimate. It wasn't the slip of someone mixing up words. It was the voice of someone speaking to someone who mattered. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Confrontation without proof was reckless, and I wasn't ready to cause a storm with nothing but a feeling. But inside me, a quiet certainty began to form. Something was going on. And whether Daniel saw it or not, I couldn't ignore it anymore. Late one night, as I sat by the window with a cup of tea, I made a silent promise to myself. If Anna was hiding something, I would find out. For Daniel's sake. Mothers protect their children, even when they're grown. Suspicion has a way of growing in silence. Once it settles into your mind, it sharpens your eyes, tunes your ears, and makes you notice the tiniest details that others would miss. I stopped telling myself I was imagining things. I knew what I had to do. I started with what was visible. Anna was active on social media, but she had always kept her accounts polished. Perfect smiles, family dinners, weekend getaways with Daniel. Everything looked normal at first glance. But when I scrolled further back, something caught my eye. Months-old photos with subtle hints, a certain necklace she wore repeatedly, captions with vague romantic undertones, and occasional comments from someone named Alex Carter. His profile was private, but his picture was there, a young man with a confident smile, leaning against a motorcycle. His comments on Anna's older posts were affectionate but careful, as if meant for someone who would understand their subtext. I clicked through every tagged photo, every mutual friend. And then I found it, a picture taken about 3 months after Anna's wedding. She was at a cafe, leaning over the table, laughing, and sitting across from her, partially cropped out but unmistakable, was Alex. The timestamp didn't lie. Next, I turned to less public clues. One afternoon, I offered to help Anna organize some old boxes in their guest room. While she was distracted in the kitchen, I noticed a small stack of mail on the dresser, mostly junk and bills, but tucked between them was a postcard. It was signed simply, "Missing you always, A." I didn't take it. I didn't need to. The handwriting, the tone, it was enough to confirm what my instincts had been screaming. I began keeping quiet notes, dates, observations, screenshots, anything that might later be dismissed as misunderstanding. I wasn't doing this out of malice. I was doing it because Daniel deserved the truth, even if it broke his heart. Late at night, I sat in my living room with my reading glasses perched low on my nose, staring at my growing folder of evidence. Every page, every image, every word formed a picture too clear to ignore. Anna wasn't just distracted. She wasn't just careless. She was leading a double life. And Alex wasn't a mistake from her past. He was still very much part of her present. The thought of Daniel finding out shattered me, but the idea of him living in a lie was worse. I leaned back in my chair, the house quiet around me, and realized something important. I was no longer just a mother with suspicions. I had become a quiet investigator, and the truth was finally taking shape. I had spent weeks observing, collecting, and confirming. There was no doubt left in my mind. Anna's connection with Alex wasn't a remnant of the past. It was alive and thriving in the shadows of her marriage to my son. The question now wasn't if I should act.
It was how.
A direct confrontation with Anna would only lead to denials and emotional manipulation. She was clever, too clever to trip over her own words twice. If the truth was going to come out, it had to happen in a way that left no room to hide. So, I made a plan. I decided to host another family dinner, the kind Anna always liked to turn into perfect little photo opportunities. I sent invitations to Daniel and Anna, told them I was preparing something special. She seemed thrilled, probably assuming it was just another harmless gathering. But there was one more guest she didn't know about. Using a neutral account and a few careful messages, I contacted Alex. I posed as someone connected to an art gallery that he had mentioned on his public profile. It didn't take long to pique his interest. I sent him the address and time of the dinner, telling him I had a proposition to discuss in person. He agreed. The evening arrived. The table was beautifully set, candles glowing, the smell of roasted lamb filling the air. Daniel and Anna arrived first, cheerful but slightly distant from each other. I played the role of the warm hostess, keeping my thoughts hidden behind a practiced smile. Half an hour later, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, Alex stood there, exactly like in his profile photo, confident and unaware of what he was walking into. For a moment, Anna's face froze. Her wine glass paused midair. Daniel looked confused, then suspicious. "Come in," I said calmly, stepping aside. Alex entered, clearly expecting something very different. His eyes met Anna's, and in that split second, everything unspoken between them was laid bare for the entire room to see. The silence that followed was thick and electric. Daniel looked from Anna to Alex, his brows furrowing, realization dawning in his eyes like a slow, painful sunrise. Anna opened her mouth, but for once, words failed her. She couldn't explain away this. Not the look on her face, Not the tension in the air, not the way Alex's presence made her carefully built facade crumble. I sat back, my hands folded in my lap, watching it unfold. The truth was finally walking through the door, literally. For a moment, no one moved. The air was heavy, thick with everything that had been hidden for months. Alex stood awkwardly in the doorway, unsure of what he had walked into. Anna stared at him, her face pale, her fingers tightening around the stem of her glass. And Daniel looked like a man who had been pushed off solid ground without warning. He broke the silence first. Who was he? His voice was low, controlled, but I could hear the crack beneath it. Anna tried to recover. She forced a laugh, shaking her head as if this was all some misunderstanding. But her eyes betrayed her before her mouth even opened. Daniel didn't need an explanation. He already knew. Alex shifted uncomfortably, glancing at me, realizing too late that this was not the kind of meeting he had expected. The way he looked at Anna, familiar, personal, was enough to make the truth echo louder than any confession. Daniel pushed his chair back slowly. His movements were deliberate, as if every muscle in his body was fighting to stay composed. He looked at Anna, then Alex, and finally at me. "You knew," he said quietly. Not accusing, just broken. I nodded. There was no point denying it. "I needed you to see it for yourself." Anna stood up suddenly, her words tumbling over each other. "Daniel, it's not what it looks like." But this time, he didn't let her finish. His voice, usually warm and patient, cut through the room like a blade. "No. I've spent months pretending not to see it. But tonight, I can't pretend anymore." She fell silent. Alex mumbled something about leaving, clearly wanting to escape the mess. But Daniel's gaze froze him in place. It wasn't anger, it was something colder, heavier. He turned to Anna one last time, his eyes full of a pain no one could soften. "I loved you. I trusted you. And you gave your heart to someone else." She had no answer. None that mattered. Daniel walked out that night with his head down, not in defeat but in disbelief. Anna followed him to the door, begging, crying, but he didn't look back. Alex slipped away quietly, like a shadow. When the house finally fell silent, I sat at the table alone, staring at the empty plates and extinguished candles. The plan had worked. The truth was out. But there was no satisfaction in it, only the hollow ache that comes when a family breaks. I had done what mothers do, protect. It hurt to see my son's heart shatter, but better the pain of truth than the slow poison of a lie. As the night deepened, I whispered to myself the same words I had repeated for weeks. He'll heal. He'll see this was necessary. And in that quiet house, I knew one thing for certain. Sometimes love means lighting a match in the dark, even if it burns everything down.